Being a good GM requires consistency, endless preparation, and player appreciation. This is Confessions of a Frustrated Game Master. Hey guys, welcome to Confessions. It is almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and I am working on preparations for another round of playtests for my game, which will be happening this Saturday, hopefully, if everybody shows up. Everybody has kind of confirmed that they are going to be showing up, and I have 5 or so folks, so 4 or 5 players testing it. I've run this adventure before. I ran it with Ivan, Mike, and Jason over at Dark Age of Roleplay, and it went fairly well, so I'm going to run the same adventure for those guys. So I'm just printing out some character sheets with their corrections, and what I like to do is I like to use folders to put the character sheets in, and what I like to have my players do is use permanent markers to write on this clear plastic sheet that covers the character sheet, and then they can use a dry erase marker to go over that and erase any permanent marker, so I can use the character sheets over and over again. And I was sitting here doing this, and I was thinking, why don't I show a little bit of this prep for my game. Some old black and white copies of old character sheets. I'm just digging out my folders and taking the old stuff out of it and putting the new character sheets in there. It's always kind of a blast from the past when you open some of these old folders, because you find old things like Mutant Year Zero when I ran it, finding some of those old character sheets. Where is the, what did I do? Here we go. So you find some of those old character sheets and the new character sheets. My character sheets are landscape, and I really like the landscape format because you don't see it a whole lot, and I think that I want to do my book when I have it professionally printed up, whatever capacity I have it printed up professionally, or I guess whatever, in whatever quantity I should say, I'm going to have it printed up. I think I want to do it in a landscape format because you very seldom see that. The only role-playing game that I can think of off of the top of my head that had a landscape format was the Star Wars, the Wizards of the Coast Star Wars. Was that Saga? Yeah, the Saga edition of Star Wars. The core rule book was in that landscape format, and I've always remembered that, and I kind of like that because you don't see it very often. So yeah, I have sometimes with these sheets I have to go through and remove any permanent markings that are on it with the dry erase. It works really well. That's something that I picked up from a friend, and I really like it because it makes everything look neat. You have pockets in your folder. Players can put notes in and keep everything together. And again, as I said, it saves you from having to print out character sheets if the player just marks on top of the clear plastic sheet. Keeps their notes there, And if you can reuse the character sheet, you can do so. Another Mutant Year Zero. That was a great role-playing game. I never got an opportunity to do a review of that game, but a printout of the skill abilities for Mutant Year Zero that I printed out for the players so they can remember what their skills can do. A character sheet. But I think I may do a review of the Coriolis sci-fi RPG. I'm working on that now, and that was made by the same folks who did Mutant Year Zero, so the system is very, very similar. I am going to do a review of that. So yeah, I'm just going through right now, taking off any permanent markers off of the plastic sheet cover for my my new player and the new character sheet that I'm going to put in here. Little piece of paper towel there. So this is something I like to do. Feel free to use that idea. How many of you, if anybody, does this? I don't see I think the first and only GM that I've ever seen do that was my friend Mike. It's a great idea. I've always loved it. He is when he runs a game, he is really great at putting a lot of thought and a lot of care and a lot of effort. You feel like you don't feel like, you know that he puts a lot of work into his games, and I've always loved that about his games, because the one thing that can really impress me with a game master or a dungeon master is if you feel like they actually have put a lot of work into what they're doing. That's something that is probably my top 2 or 3 things that for me lets me know that I have the right dungeon master, is one who you feel like excuse me, they've been working on their campaign. I really love that. They sit down, they have a game prepared. I think a lot of GMs think that players can't tell when they haven't prepared anything. They haven't really worked on their campaign. Sometimes some GMs are good enough to get away with it not being noticed that they didn't work on anything. But not all the time. And that's a really bad feeling, or not the best feeling in the world, where you feel like the GM is just winging it and hasn't prepared. And I've never felt that way about my friend Mike, who runs, and it's really awesome. And I kind of got this from him. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and playing face to face with some folks, and whipping out my maps and using my Pathfinder pawns that I purchased a while ago. I really love using maps and miniatures. That's where the hobby started. It started out using maps and either marking everybody's location with pencil or using miniatures, and of course the hobby started from wargaming. It really adds to the game, in my opinion. Here you go. I have my pre-gens here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My 6 pre-gens. My players have already selected their characters, and one of my players came up with an amazing backstory, and I'm going to ask him if I can share that with you guys. Came up with an amazing backstory for his character, and it really blew me away. And that really motivates me as a game master when I have a player who sits down and takes the time to think about the setting, think about the campaign, think about his character, and put some work in it. As I always say, I do my best work when my players do theirs, and that just motivates me to the nth degree. And I love that. And I'm going to ask my player if I can share that little story that he made up, because it was really awesome. And I felt really inspired by it. It was really great. But that's it. That's all I wanted to share with you. A little GM tip on the prep that I do. And I've already run the adventure, so I'm just going to look over it and set my maps up and have everything ready. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share. A little quick video here, and thanks for joining me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks.